So, Fran, I'm really glad to see you in Seattle. And we are talking about your son and the fact that David Commodario has not told you yet where your son is buried. It's a public interest issue that he was a guardian of your son for years. He failed to bring your son into court when there were court orders that he would have to produce him in court. And he prevented you from seeing your son. And now your son is dead, and he is not telling you what he's done with your son and where your son is.
Yeah, that's right, Janet. I thank you so much for your organization, Seattle Public Interest Issues show, because you've taken an interest in somebody that you don't even know. You didn't know me, and you were interested in filming and learning about the issue of guardianship predators in the state of Florida. Unfortunately, my son had cerebral palsy, couldn't walk, talk, or he was going to inherit some money from me and my husband, and a man by the name of David Commodario, it was a distant relative who was very aware of our finances, asked a judge that he worked for guardianship of my son. And he hid him for over 4 years. His attorney, Grace Ann Glavin, refused to tell me where my son was. So I had court orders that I could visit him, take him on trips, and the deputy would use his vehicle, his sheriff's car, and park it outside of the home where my son lived, and call inside and tell the people not to let the mother, even though she had a court order to visit, not to let her in to see Brad. So my son died. And now alone, without his mom. I'm a nurse, and I took care of him all of his life because he had CP. A wonderful young man, brilliant, very smart. But the Commodario and Grace Ann Glavin, the state attorney's office, the judges, the sheriff's department, Sheriff Esslinger, who employed David Commodario, absolutely refused to tell me any information about my son, his whereabouts, or even his death. And I'd like to find out where his body is. If it's in a morgue in Florida, I'd really like to honor him by burying him. So it's not a big request that I have as a mother. And I thank you for anyone that has any knowledge in Longwood, Florida, and Sanford, Florida, of David Commodario, his whereabouts, and encourage him to tell me where he's put my son's body so that I can honor my son with a burial. I would appreciate that information. You can contact Fran Grady .rn@gmail.com, or contact the station here.
Seattle Community Media. And my show is called Public Interest Issue Show. And my name is Janet Christensen Obrien. If you have information, we'd love to hear from you.
Yes. So thank you very much. Anyone that has information, let us know. It would be an honor to be able to bury my son. He was a tremendously bright young man. He met Stephen Hawkins and communicated with him. And so he was very bright. He wanted to be an astronaut from a wheelchair. And San Diego Air and Space Museum have honored my son. They contacted the governor and Sheriff Esslinger to try to get my son brought out here so he could visit the Air and Space Museum in San Diego. They were going to treat him for 2 weeks vacation for free, just to honor my son. And the sheriff, who is the boss of David Commodario, refused to make contact with David Commodario and me and allow that visit to take place. So,
and now all you're asking for is to find your son.
Yeah, I don't want any money from the estate. We left him over $500,000 that David Commodario and Grace Ann Glavin and other people associated with the 18th Judicial Circuit are now enjoying the assets coming from my son's guardianship and his estate. And I don't want any money. I just want to honor my precious son and have a nice funeral and celebration of life, because Brad was a very interesting and very loving young man.
So thank you very much, Fran, again, for being on my show. And thank you for coming up to Seattle to do this segment of the show, because it's very important that we find out what happened to Brad.
Yeah, thank you. that are dealing with guardianship issues. My son's guardian is a former undercover narcotic agent with the Seminole County Sheriff's Department. He has a lot of influence with the judges, with the sheriff, and no one wants to bother to do anything about the abuse that he's doing to my disabled son. It's a very difficult situation to deal with when the man has so much power. So it is different than a lot of situations. I don't have any idea of any money that my son has. Right now, currently, he probably has zero. And I'm not interested in that. I just want to see my son. I want to take care of him. He's dying of aspiration pneumonia. And this Seminole County undercover narcotic agent, David Commodario, is not even letting the young man get a hug from his mother or talk to me. Or he lets him go to the hospital with no accompaniment. He can't push anyone away. I'd like to tell you a little bit about the judge that I've been dealing with for over 9 years. Her name is Judge Nancy Alley. Before she became an attorney, she was a legal guardian, and then she became an elder, I believe you call it elder law attorney. Then she became a judge. And for the 18th Judicial Circuit, she wrote a manual on how to handle guardianship when you become a guardian. The major part of the manual describes how you can find jewelry in a person's home. She says, go to the ward's home and look in cold cream jars, because very often elderly people hide diamond rings in cold cream jars. This tells you a lot about this judge and where her mind is, and the issues are money and greed. I'd really like you to understand what Judge Nancy Alley has done. She has gone so far as to write an order for her friend, Sergeant Commodario, stating that I cannot make any criminal reports to the police or any agency in reference to his behavior or his abuse of my son. I have a copy of the order. This is the judicial qualifications complaint that I made in reference to Judge Nancy Alley and her writing the order disallowing me to make criminal complaints against the guardian. So I did complain to the Judicial Qualifications Committee, and they sent me a letter back saying that it was not going to be dealt with. And so I've been reporting the harassment of the guardian of my son. He is a deputy sheriff, and he's been having people do pullovers on me because I complained about him, and my son registered a complaint with the sheriff's department about his guardian. So what he's been doing, and I've reported it, and there are police reports that go unheeded by the police department. He's also threatened me and my husband and my son's life, and we have recordings that he left on our telephone. And the day before yesterday, I had another hearing. I've been going through hearings over the last 8.5 years. My son's guardian was subpoenaed to come into the courtroom and produce documents. He did not show up, and he was required by this subpoena to bring my son into the courtroom unsedated with his communication device, and he did not bring my son into the courtroom. So the judge did not. I carried this photograph into the hearing to show Judge Stacy, my son, and I was hoping that his guardian would honor the subpoena and bring him into the courtroom, but this is about the third time he's refused to show up. He typically tells people that he is a Seminole County Sheriff deputy and he has more authority than a judge.